Hi everyone. I just got back from showing my indie game to the public for the first time. And let me tell you, it is absolutely surreal to be working on something in relative isolation for, in my case, about a year, and to finally get mass feedback on it from the public. You get to see the months of work that people just nonchalantly skipped over, and you also get to see them wowed by the things that you stayed up late at night to make sure that were just right. But the most important thing about that was getting to see the real human experience that my game created. So yeah, the last several weeks of my life have been really dense with meaningful and memorable experiences, and that's all I can really ask for, so I'm doing good right now. At the end of October, I hung out at the GDEX Expo with my friends from Skymill Studios. They showed their game Kindred Fates there, and they won an award. Please show them some love. They're really great folks, and they have an awesome game. And then the next week, both my friends at Skymill and we showed at the Torg Gaming Expo, and that's what the rest of this video is going to be about. So we're going to go through a deep dive of what exhibiting an indie game at a convention is like. And I'm going to go over the process of my experience at the Torg Expo for how I plan to be at the convention, the costs I had to pay to be at the convention, the logistics of getting there, loading in, how the show days went, and our overall takeaways from the convention. During the takeaways section, I'm going to be explaining all the updates I made to CultGame, so if you don't want to go through all of the process of the convention and you just want to see the updates to the game, you can scrub to the chapter in the video and go there and look at the updates. But let's get started. So to first plan to be at a game convention, you need to know what conventions are going on, right? So I learned about the Torg Gaming Expo through my local game development group. I'm part of one here in Columbus called COG, which is Central Ohio Game Developer Group. And you probably have a local game dev group in your area that can help you learn these things through word of mouth, but a much more open way I found is there's a site called FanCons that you can go to, and you can look at any sort of spot in the world and see the conventions that are scheduled in your area. And you can check to see if they'd be appropriate for indie games. You can filter by the theme of the convention. So I recommend that. Torg happened to be an up-and-coming convention, and they wanted to support their local indie game dev scene here in Columbus, so the price to have a booth if you're an indie was free, so that was great. Free is the best price, so I signed up right away. I just went to their website, and they had a little form that I could fill out to apply as an indie dev. And it took a while because the organization for these convention events really does take a lot. There's a lot of people, especially at Torg, it was huge. So it took a while to get a reply, but I got locked in and I was good to go. So the last bit of planning I had to do was in a follow-up from the convention organizer where he said, hey, if you want to order power at the venue, please do so at this link. And I didn't know that this was a normal thing, but at convention centers, it is normal to pay for the use of electricity and order it specifically for your booth. So I did so. I was very new to me. I didn't know that that was a thing, but apparently it is. And paying for electricity, at this point, I will transition now into costs of going to the convention. All right, so here are the costs for the Torg Gaming Expo. Like I mentioned, the cost for the booth was free, very fortunately. Some conventions, it can get pretty expensive depending on the convention and the size of booth or the services you order. But one service that I had to order to run my old monitor and the laptop I was running the game on was electricity. So that's a venue fee. It's $103 I had to pay for that one-time usage there for the electricity. For travel to get there, this is just downtown, and I live in the metropolitan area of Columbus. So I only had to, I drove down there to and back 3 times. So that's $11 or so on gas. I made an estimate of that. And I was staying at home too, so that kept things cheap. I was just paying $0 for that. Hotels and airfares for travel and lodging can get pretty expensive, and you could easily, at this point, get over $1,000 just to even be at the convention if you're an exhibitor, or not even an exhibitor if you're traveling to a faraway convention. But and then for food. I had the advantage of being at home and using groceries, so I just packed some snacks. I got some date bars and some nuts and my big old bottle of water, and that was a pretty healthy way for me to stay put all day, but also eat some healthy food. Very cheap. So yeah, up until this point, these are all of the basic costs of just personal care and then getting myself to and from the convention. We're going to get into booth decorations and equipment, and this is a pretty interesting cost right here that I've broken down into another spreadsheet, and I'll show you that in just a second, but it ended up being $223.45. Alright, so these are the costs for my booth equipment, decorations, and supplies. I'm just going to go over this very quickly, but you can slow the video down or pause it to look at the prices of any individual decorations or costs that I paid to have the booth equipment. And lastly, we cannot forget the merch. I was giving away stickers and cult leader licenses, very fun stuff. And I got the cult game stickers from Jukebox Print, a Canadian company that I got a coupon for, 250 vinyl stickers for about $90, good deal. And then cult leader licenses for, this is from Vista Print. I got 250 business cards from them, $32. And that was a pretty good deal, I thought, also with a coupon. And I still have these. Like, I went to the convention, I didn't give them all away. So I can still use these at future conventions. And this is where I go into talking about this booth decorations cost as well. I don't have to pay this for future conventions. I've already paid, I have my booth set up, I have everything I need for the most part. And so if I go to another convention, I won't have to pay this cost again. And I think I have the data here. Let me just check. Yeah, okay, it's still here. So just for going to Torg, just these costs right here is only this much. That's really good to get out of a convention weekend and spend under $200. And anyone who's been to a convention can tell you that. Yeah, now for going to future conventions, I still can give away this merch, and I still can use those same booth supplies and decorations. Alright, so for the logistics of getting set up at the game convention, what that looked like was just loading up the back of my SUV and taking it downtown into the convention center loading docks. And I imagine most convention centers or event centers have places like this. But there was a big loading dock behind the convention center with garage doors, and we just parked in the little lot there. It was not too busy because we got there early to avoid some of the traffic that potentially would come with a bunch of people loading in for an expo. But the whole day was being used for it, so it was all right. We get there, we park, we scamper around the place and try to figure out who we need to see for badges. Once we get that resolved, then we try to find their table. The tables haven't been set up because it's too early in the day. Very understandable, just because this is a convention. There's a lot of people going on, but we're the first people there for indie devs, it looks like. So we get there, a lot of walkie-talkies are firing, and then we get our table. So we set up, and our booth ended up looking like this. We think it really fit the retro occult theme of Cult Game really well. We're really proud of how it turned out. And yes, that is an ancient, genuine ViewSonic CRT, as well as a quote-unquote internet access keyboard I got sealed in the box from the year 2002. My friends at SkyMill were also nice enough to give me an ancient rollerball mouse. And you can tell these are authentic because they still use these old prong connectors called PS/2 and not USB. So this ended up giving us a really nice, genuine retro look for our booth. And Torg is a retro gaming expo, so we definitely fit the theme really well. As for the occult side of our theming, the retro occult, I got a cheap crystal ball Halloween decoration on Amazon, and I borrowed my mom's electric candle collection that she uses for home decor, and I got some foam boards of our game's cover picture and a QR code that looks like it's a ritual circle, and I got Halloween decorations from Aldi, like this plastic skeleton. I got this ceremonial Arthurian dagger from a club in college. Yeah, we and I cannot forget the H.P. Lovecraft book we just had sitting on the table just because vibes. So I think it felt like it just fit together. I think the booth was very well received. The main recommendation I would make for those of you who are planning to exhibit your game at an expo and are considering the logistical side of things is to really have a helper or a trusted friend at the convention who can help you unload and load stuff into your car, who can watch your table for you while you're taking a bathroom break or you need to get up to get something. My cousin was there and she did that for me. She's wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, cuz. But yes, please consider that if you're doing a convention in the future. So we didn't get a ton of footage from the convention, as I was spending most of my time during the show days interacting with the players or taking notes based on their play sessions. My cousin was off having fun, and good for her, she should do that at a convention. But we still got a few clips that I'll put throughout this video. We had around 40 people approach our booth and play the game, and each of them played between 10 and 30 minutes, depending on how interested in the game they were, which was longer than I thought, so that's great. We got all kinds of comments from players who tried the game out. One of the most common comments is people comparing us to pre-existing games. And I figured that's kind of the language that gamers use when they describe games. It's like, oh, it's this game combined with this game, or it's like this game. People compared us to an old MUD game called Threshold, and just old MUDs in general. They mentioned MUDs. They mentioned Cult of the Lamb, a newer game, and that was based around cult themes and controlling a cult. We even had one guy who compared CultGame to Plague Inc. in that one of the things you can do in the demo right now is go on the map and convert tiles of the map to your religion, so like color the map and spread your religion around. So yeah, that was a pretty big one. One of the biggest and most common positive comments that we saw was the love of the unique art style. So all that love goes to Little Bit Space for making a great unique art style. They did a wonderful job for CultGame. We did have headphones available for players who wanted to listen to the game's audio, but we found that we didn't have very many takers at all who wanted to put on the headphones during their gameplay session. They wanted to talk with their friends who were nearby them or talk with me behind the booth during the gameplay session, and the headphones seemed to put up a barrier between that. So we didn't see a whole lot of that. The people who did put the headphones on to listen to the music, specifically mentioning really enjoying the music and saying that the nice sort of jazzy funk hip-hop vibe of the soundtrack was a unique and unexpected fun element of the whole experience. Credit to Evan Stevens on the soundtrack. He did a wonderful job. Overall, the response was really great. People just wanted more content. They wanted to experience more of the game, as the demo I had was very humble and had very limited features and just a few core gameplay mechanics. Regardless, people were really engrossed in what was there. They wanted the game to expand and unfold, see more upgrades, get more cultists. They wanted the game to be bigger, and it will be. But just hearing that made me lose a lot of my insecurity that no one would be interested or like the game when it came out. So getting that feedback that people like the direction where you're heading is super valuable as a indie game developer who has a limited amount of eyes on the project. We also can't forget the free swag we gave away. The CultGame stickers were a big hit. People would just come up to the booth just to get a sticker, or just maybe they were on the move, but they would comment and say, well, I love your design. I love the artwork for the game. People also really liked the Cult Leader licenses, so I'll put those on screen, but the way I handled this is if you played the game or expressed interest, I would say, hey, in order to enjoy the game legally, you need this, and it's a Cult Leader license. And on the back had a QR code for finding out more about the game and linking to our link tree and all of that. So that was a huge hit. Like almost every time I gave someone a Cult Leader license, they burst out in laughter. And I had a game development professor who had the booth to the right of me, and she said that is a brilliant idea. I've never thought of that, just giving someone a little memento like that has some sort of authority to it. It was a good idea, so that really worked out very well. The last part of the booth experience I want to talk about today was me. I dressed up as a cult leader for the show days.
They say to dress for the job you want.
So in my opinion, the real purpose of going to a convention is for the player feedback. As I said earlier, it is absolutely surreal to see people play your game in person and react to it right in front of you. You get to see their emotions on their face when you present them with choices. You get to see them develop their strategies and improve and learn, and there's nothing compared to that. And I feel like this whole process gave me a lot of information to guide future development, a lot of great feedback. And not to mention this whole process of getting this feedback and seeing reactions, it gives you a lot of energy as a developer. Even though I was exhausted after this convention, I was so pumped to work on this game right when I got home and make it better, because I met and shook hands with people for the very first time that cared about my game. It was really cool. So during the show days, I took around 9 pages of notes based off of player feedback, suggestions, and things I noticed in the game while I was watching all the playtesting. For this part of the video, I'm going to go over all of the improvements I've made to CultGame based off of the playtesting that every single one of all of you wonderful people who played CultGame at Torg did for me. So thank you to you. The game is now getting better literally because of you guys. Unmentioned in this list are lots of uninteresting fixes to bugs that that the playtesting helped me to discover, but here are some of the more interesting changes. Some players tried to target a water tile to pre-chat, and you can't pre-chat anything in the sea, so now I show you a funny message when you try to do that. To make navigating the map easier, a highlighted help message appears to tell you that you can move your cursor with the arrow keys. Menus with lots of choices were hard for people to read, so now I've made it so that printing those choices is possible in separate columns, and now you can also have the accept and back buttons separated from the main group of choices. The quit game button was originally Q, but this was quite close to the number keys, which you press a lot during the game on the top of the keyboard, and a few players accidentally hit Q and got kicked out of their games. So the quit button has now been changed to X, and there's also now a confirmation screen before you quit the game. Players didn't quite understand what theology meant in CultGame, so now a prompt describes what theology is and what they can do in that menu. Players were also confused by the View Beliefs screen, where the left square bracket allowed them to view their beliefs, and the right square bracket allowed them to establish new beliefs. The square brackets were hard for some players to distinguish between, so now we have the keys V and B, which are now being used to view and buy beliefs, respectively. Throughout CultGame, there are choices that are not colored yellow. Players didn't realize that those choices were able to be selected. Because CultGame tends to be fairly monochrome, I feel that a color coding scheme is going to be very powerful. So now everything that can be selected is colored yellow to show that it is selectable. This includes monthly report items, pops, and tabs in the world map and theology menu. Players had trouble understanding after queuing an action for their cultist, they needed to end the month for the action to be carried out. In the same spirit as coloring selectable options yellow, the End Month Now button now changes color once you have all of your cultists assigned to actions. A little visual indicator here basically saying, select me. CultGame's maps are admittedly kind of weird and scary, so now we've added a map legend to make them easier to read. Wherever possible, CultGame's headers now read like a file path to help you know where exactly you are in the game's menus. Lastly, my favorite improvement, we now have sound effects. The goal here was to make the game feel great while playing. Take a listen. another takeaway I have for you is that conventions aren't particularly good for marketing. When I originally was thinking about going to conventions, I thought of it in the context of marketing. It makes sense, right? It goes all the way back to our fundamental understanding of how businesses work when we're small, right? We learn that if we set up a lemonade stand, people will come up and buy from us. If we knock on doors and talk to people, we can sell them our Girl Scout cookies. But strangely, that's sort of an antiquated understanding of how marketing works for games. Chris Sikowski, an expert in games marketing, who I will defer to right now, has said this about going to game conventions to market your game. I don't recommend using in-person festivals show floors as a marketing method. It is expensive, time-consuming, you typically end up sick, it takes away from developing your game, and you usually only get a couple hundred wish lists after all of that. Paid Facebook ads have a higher return on investment. And from my experience, Chris Sikowski is correct. I did see a noticeable bump in followers, about 28 among all of my social media accounts, and around 21 new followers on itch.io after the convention. This is not a life-changing or profitable marketing bump given the costs of time and money to most indie developers. This is not just me as well. I've talked to several of my other friends and developers who go to conventions, and they say they don't see a typically large increase in followers or wish lists after conventions. The way to really cast your marketing nets wide, according to Chris Sikowski, is to exhibit your game at online game festivals, such as the Steam Next Fest. So first off, it's free to exhibit at an online game festival. There's absolutely no travel expenses, and in addition to that, there's no travel time. And then game festivals are also much more lucrative for earning wish lists as well, the main ROI reason of doing these events, as the median wishlist gain for Steam's October 2024 Next Fest was around 1,000. That's really good. At least for the foreseeable future, I am planning on doing serious marketing with online game festivals. So other than for conventions being for getting feedback as an indie developer, what use are they for, right? Well, a very good reason to go to conventions is to make connections with other game developers and gamers. Now, I'm not going to give you the same speech you've heard over and over again about conventions being good for networking and network being good for you in your professional life. You've heard this a million times, and it's very true. I'll call back to where I first started this video. As game developers, our goal is to create real human experiences, and our games are just the tools for this, but our goal is to charitably want people to have an interesting, memorable experience and time playing our games. By starting conversations with others that lead to potential friendships, hangout sessions, dinners, parties, and lifelong memories, we can create real human experiences for ourselves and others that give us more material to create games about. To think a bit selfishly about this, human connections help us practice the art of creating experiences for others so we can create better games. All it takes is one person to change our lives, and you never know if that one person that you form a human connection with is going to lead you to create great art further down the road. Okay, that is it for this devlog today. Thank you very much to our supporters, Bill the Old Man, Jethro, Florian Rorwick, Adele4, and C Standard IO. If you'd like to support what I do, you can tip me at the Ko-Fi link in the description. The last thing I'd like to say is that the Cult Game Discord is now open, so please join up so you can chat with me while I work on the game. Thank you very much for spending a bit of your day with me. I'll see you in the next video, but I'll play us out. I'll play my ukulele a bit while the video fades out. That'll be fun.